Angel Reese did things last night I'm not sure we've ever seen on a basketball court. Guys, I'm dead. I saw this and was like, this can't be real.
She put on what might be her most embarrassing showing to date, and it wasn't just her numbers that were off. It was the total meltdown she had out on the court.
7 damn turnovers. 7. All right?
From needless roughness to blatantly reckless play, Reese gave us a disaster piece performance that had everyone in the arena shaking their heads. If you came here wanting a step-by-step breakdown of how a big talker got taken down a peg, you're in for a treat. Angel Reese was all show and no substance last night, and the stats alone paint a picture of a player more invested in putting on a spectacle than actually playing winning basketball. Trust me, the numbers speak volumes. At one point, Reese tried a suspect move under the basket, which not only looked dirty, but also raised eyebrows about what exactly was going through her head. She walked into the matchup with her usual swagger, acting like she was going to dominate, but it became painfully obvious within minutes that she was more interested in taunting opponents than actually making smart plays. Rather than relying on fundamentals, she kept pushing boundaries and forcing bad passes, one after another, that left people watching in disbelief. The game footage even showed her turning to bark at an opponent after a routine shot, as if proving she had more to say than to show on the court. Let's not dodge the numbers. Angel Reese coughed the ball up 7 times. Yes, 7 turnovers. These weren't just simple slip-ups either. We're talking about comedic-level errors typically reserved for unpolished newcomers. One time, she threw the ball directly at the backboard, grabbed the ricochet like she was playing catch with herself, and stood there looking absolutely stunned, as though she couldn't process what had just happened. It was truly a, did that seriously just happen moment. Reese's overconfidence also led her to force off-the-mark shots that had no chance of going in. She alternated between launching bricks and playing what could only be described as football-level physicality, trying to body Napheesa Collier into submission. At the end of the night, Reese put up 17 points and 10 boards on 8 for 16 shooting, but those 7 turnovers and her questionable decisions overshadowed everything else. Collier, for her part, went 7 of 16 for 16 points and 9 rebounds, and she hit the dagger that sealed the game. That's what really matters. Even better, Collier never let Reese's antics faze her. Whenever Angel tried to muscle her around, Naph responded by taking her to school on the scoreboard. Reese looked more like she was auditioning for a cage match than stepping up in a high-level basketball contest. And the best part? She paid dearly for it every time Collier scored. If you claim you're the queen of trash talk, you'd better back it up with actual basketball prowess, but Reese failed spectacularly in that regard. Things reached an absurd level when Reese attempted one of the clumsiest defensive plays you'll see all season. In the midst of trying to force her way into position, she lost her balance and flopped to the ground like an overly dramatic stunt double. The officials saw right through the act. No foul was called, no whistle, just an awkward tumble that left the crowd shaking their heads in disbelief. It was a humiliating moment that only reinforced how questionable her approach had become. Social media had a field day roasting Reese for that flop. People pointed out that for someone who loves to brag about how tough she is, she sure crumpled up when it was convenient. Yet for all her talk about relishing the role of the villain, Reese hasn't shown she can handle true pressure. Rather than rising to the occasion, she resorts to tactics that do nothing but dig her a deeper hole. Commentators across the board have started questioning whether Angel Reese is actually more focused on building an online brand than on refining her skills. Some viewers joke that she's got one eye on her social media presence and the other on the court, if that. Instead of doing what pros do, putting in the hard work and honing real talent, she keeps doubling down on hollow theatrics. Meanwhile, Napheesa Collier put on a clinic. She refused to engage in any of Reese's nonsense and simply did her job, scoring, rebounding, and defending at a high level. Every time Reese tried to initiate contact, Collier responded in the best possible way by getting buckets and showing a textbook example of how a true professional keeps her composure. While Reese was showing off bravado, Naph was quietly carrying her team to a much-deserved win. As if Reese's night couldn't sink any lower, she made a final mistake so ridiculous it might end up on blooper reels for years. With a chance to spark a comeback, she coughed the ball up again by sending a pass directly into an opponent's hands. Another turnover, another wasted opportunity, another painful reminder that showiness can't replace skill or situational awareness. And right on cue, Angel Reese tried to spin the narrative afterward. Rather than holding herself accountable, she pointed fingers at referees, at teammates, and even at the playing conditions. Basically, anyone but her. This is typical Angel Reese. Act overly tough, make reckless plays, and then declare yourself the victim when it doesn't pan out. She even gave a tearful speech about how hard it is to live her life at 22 under the weight of public scrutiny. But focusing on good old-fashioned basketball fundamentals might ease some of that pressure more than any sob story could. The Lunar Owls, on the other hand, had plenty of reason to celebrate. Napheesa Collier was the epitome of professionalism. She let her game do the talking, made the big shots that mattered, and never stooped to the childish tactics that defined Reese's performance. When she drilled that game winner, it was the perfect capstone, proof that skill, focus, and self-control win out over cheap theatrics and meaningless showboating. To make matters worse for Reese, the turnout for these games isn't meeting expectations. People are starting to wonder if the hype around her is more smoke and mirrors than genuine star power. When you take a big gamble on a so-called marquee player who fails to produce, fans tune out quickly, and networks notice. If Reese can't bring in a crowd or generate positive headlines with her on-court play, what exactly is she offering? Online reactions were unrelenting. Fans lost no time blasting her 7 turnovers, referencing her missed layups, and poking fun at her laughable flop. There were jokes that she was trying to break some record for the highest number of blunders in a single outing. One scathing tweet nailed the sentiment. Angel Reese loves to act like she's unstoppable, but she's turning the ball over like she just learned how to dribble. People also recognize this pattern. Whenever the pressure rises, Angel's reliance on trash talk far outweighs her reliance on actual basketball skill. Coaches and analysts in the WNBA are definitely paying attention. They see that Angel's style isn't contributing to her team's success, and they're wondering how long they can afford to keep giving her significant minutes if all she does is create turnovers and drama. If she keeps playing this way, she could wind up with a lot more bench time, or worse, fade out as just another overhyped player who never delivered. It didn't help that during the game, Reese kept jawing at officials and acting like every call against her was some grand conspiracy. She went so far as to imply that she was tossed from a prior game due to racial bias, blaming everyone but herself for any ejection. When in doubt, Angel seems perfectly content to point fingers at the system rather than question if she's the problem. But here's the real deal. Being labeled a game changer in the WNBA means you must have discipline, leadership, and talent, 3 things that didn't make an appearance in Reese's performance. Sure, she came into this league with a lot of hype, touted as the next big star capable of electrifying fans. What we saw, though, was the polar opposite: aimless aggression, childish taunting, and carelessness that led to countless turnovers. Compare her to Napheesa Collier, who doesn't rely on gimmicks or hype. Collier puts her head down, works hard, and delivers in crunch time. She absorbed every cheap shot and foul Reese threw her way, then landed the ultimate blow in the form of a game-sealing shot. That's how you carry yourself when you're truly among the best. Reese, on the other hand, looks like she's regressing. There was footage circulating of her repeatedly getting her attempts blocked by star defenders, and her efficiency keeps plummeting. The commentary afterward was harsh but not surprising. She's not improving, and everyone can see it. Of course, the moment someone points out these weaknesses, Reese's supporters label it hate. But there's a difference between criticism of poor play and a personal attack. Angel's own. Mother has been heard telling her to ignore the critics entirely. While it's natural for a parent to show support, flat-out dismissing all feedback might be contributing to the lack of growth we're seeing. If you never address the issues, like missed layups, bad shot selection, or forcing passes, you'll never elevate your game. The cycle just repeats. As for Napheesa Collier, she walked away from this matchup with a smile, and for good reason. She showed everyone exactly why she's considered one of the league's top players, doing it all with composure and top-tier basketball IQ. While Angel Reese was tied up in her own drama, Collier was hitting key baskets and making crucial defensive stops, proving that talking trash is optional, but delivering on the court is mandatory. Let's not pretend this was just a one-off bad game for Reese. This performance exposed a deeper trend of her leaning on over-the-top behavior instead of cultivating a strong skill set. Every time she meets real competition, she buckles under the weight of her own hype. This was her big chance to show she belonged in the conversation with stars like Collier or Caitlin Clark, but all she managed was a meltdown that left her looking wildly outclassed. The big question now is what Reese does next. If she keeps pulling these stunts, fans won't stick around much longer. People turn on trash talkers who can't back it up, and the WNBA is a small enough pool that reputations can get set in stone fast. It's not sustainable to churn out turnover-laden games while blaming everyone else. In the final stretch, Reese did what she always does, stormed off, glared at the refs, and acted incredulous that things didn't go her way. Forget the fact that she was at the center of the team's meltdown. No, she'd rather act like the universe just conspired against her. That level of self-denial might garner headlines temporarily, but it won't fix the problems in her game. And make no mistake, fans saw right through it. Social media blew up with clips of her most glaring errors. While Reese flexed her bravado, Collier coolly sank the game winner. If Angel thought she had sealed her superstar status, she got a brutal reminder that fame isn't just about style, it's also about substance. Angel Reese's meltdown is not an isolated incident. It's part of a pattern that's clearly on full display now for anyone who's been paying attention. The question is whether she'll actually learn to shift her attitude and refine her skill set, or if she'll continue doubling down on excuses, deflecting blame, and throwing tantrums. Meanwhile, Napheesa Collier continues her rise, building a case for why she's a real face of the future in this league. She dominates without relying on sideshows, letting her numbers and her leadership do the talking. In contrast, Reese is all about the posturing, and it keeps backfiring. At this point, it's obvious. Angel Reese is neither Caitlin Clark nor Napheesa Collier. If she wants to close that gap, she needs to focus on actual basketball fundamentals, like finishing layups instead of mugging for the cameras. So, here's the bottom line. Angel Reese has a lot of issues to fix if she hopes to become anything more than a loud sideshow. Skills matter. Discipline matters. Leadership matters. Until she starts prioritizing those things over attention-grabbing antics, she's only going to keep getting exposed. The sport of basketball has a way of revealing the truth. No amount of talking can mask a shaky handle, a blown layup, or a flop that goes unrewarded. What do you think? Is Angel Reese on the brink of her hype train derailing for good? Or will this harsh dose of reality finally prompt some growth? Let us know your thoughts. And if you want to see more breakdowns of who's real and who's just faking it in this league, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications.